Alright guys, so before we actually start our application, I want to talk about modules a little bit. So in JavaScript, there's different types of modules. You have common JS modules, which is what Node.js uses by default. It's what we can use with Webpack by default without even having to use Babel. But we do have Babel set up so we can use what are called ES2015 modules. And there's a different syntax to do this. Now, both of them are used to bring in modules, which can just be other files, other JavaScript files. And you can also use them to bring in modules that you install with NPM. Okay, when we do NPM install whatever, let's say Axios, the Axios HTTP library, we could use either syntax in this case because we have Babel integrated. We have the preset, and you can see that if we go to Webpack config.js, we're using the Babel loader. All right, and again, if you want to know how to set this whole package up from scratch, you could go to my YouTube channel and just search for Babel Webpack. All right, so let's first look at common JS modules, which are actually not part of ES2015. So I'm going to create a new file here, and I'm just going to call this, let's just say my module1.js. And a module can be anything, okay? It can be any kind, it can be a function, it can be an object, it can be an object full of functions or whatever. It can even be just a string. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use common JS syntax by saying module.exports. Okay, now module.exports, it's just saying that we want whatever I put here available to other files. So what I'm going to do is just put in an object here with a name, and we'll just do, I don't know, email. We'll just say test@test.com. All right, so this is my module. It's just an object with a name and an email. And the only way that I'll be able to access this is by adding this module.exports. So let's go back to app.js. We'll get rid of this here. And we want to bring that module in. So remember, this is common JS. This is not ES2015 yet. So to do this, we'd set a variable. I'll call it person. We can call it whatever we want. And we set it equal to require. And then in here, we want to do /, meaning that it's in the same directory, and then my module1. Okay, we don't have to do .js at the end. So this is how you would also bring in modules that you would install with NPM. Okay, those would go inside of the node modules folder. For instance, if you installed the Express framework, you would do require express without the /, because it's an actual node module. It's not just another file. When it's a file, you want to make sure you use the path here. All right, so now we can access this. If I say console.log and I say person.name and save, it'll reload, and you'll see down here, it's a little warped, but it says Brad. Okay, so I'm accessing that name from this my module1 file. So this is very handy because it allows us to have a nice application structure without having a million different script tags in our index.html file. Okay, it's all going to be compiled to this one app.bundle file, which is included in our index file right here. Okay, so even if I had 30 of these modules, it's all going to be compiled to this one file, and it's all compatible. Excuse me. It's all compatible with basically every browser because it's compiled down to ES5. All right, so now what I'm going to do is get into ES2015 modules, and that syntax, it's a little different. So let's create another file here, and I'll call this my module2.js. Now, the syntax for this is a little different. We don't do module.exports like we did before. We just say export. All right, so, and we can export as many things as we want. So I'm going to just define a variable here called person, and we're just putting export in front of it, meaning that this person can be accessed from other files. All right, we'll just set this to an object, and we'll put a name. We'll say John, age 30. All right, and that's it. So this object will now be accessible outside of this file. So let's go back to app.js. Let me close this app bundle. I don't know why that's open. And then let me just put a comment here saying that this is the common JS module syntax, and then I'm going to just comment that out. And to bring in the ES2015 module, then we need to just say import, and then we're going to put some curly braces here, and then in here is what we want to pull out from that file. In this case, it's going to be the person variable. So we're going to put in person and say from /mymodule2. Okay, and then we can still leave this person.name. Let's save it, and then down here you'll see we get John. Alright, so it works a little differently. Instead of defining a variable here to require, we're importing whatever we export from the other file. Now we can export as many things as we want. If we want to create a function, we can simply say export function, we'll call it say hello, and let's go ahead and just return a template string, and we'll say hello. And even though we're exporting this variable of person, we can still access it within the same file, okay, just as if we weren't exporting it. So we'll just say person.name, and we'll save. And then if we go back to app.js and we want to bring in this say hello function, we can simply put it in here. So we're using destructuring here, just like we learned about a few sections back. We can pull out multiple things from this module, from this file. So if we go down here and we say console.log say hello and save, you see we get hello John. Okay. Now another thing we can do, if you want to just make everything that's being exported available without having to specify each one, what we can do is we can say import, let me just comment this out, and we can say import all using an asterisk as something. So let's say mod, and then we'll just do from /mymodule2, and then if we want to access anything, for instance the person, we just need to add mod in front of it. So for here we'll say mod.person.name, and for here we'll say mod.sayhello, and you'll see we get the same thing. Alright, so if you don't want to specify it all here, you can bring everything in as this variable, whatever you put here. Now another thing, if you may see import something without these brackets here, that means that it's set as the default export. So for instance, if we go and we say export, actually let's create a variable, we'll just call it greeting, and we'll say hello world, and then right here we'll say export default greeting. Okay, so if we use default, we don't have to use the curly braces. So we'll go back to app.js. Let's go ahead and comment that out, and let's say import, and what do we call it, greeting from ./mymodule2, and then we'll go down here and console.log greeting. Just comment these two out and save, and we get hello world. Alright, so you might see all of these different types of syntax. So in the next video, we're going to actually start our project, and we're going to separate our files into modules and import them this way, instead of just including multiple script tags like we've been doing with past projects.